welcome to Murphy's garden. It's an absolutely lovely day and it's just been so nice just to spend the day pottering and just sort of tidying up and catching up in the garden. I've got lots and lots to do, but I have made a good start. So I just wanted to do a little update on the Parterre and the bare root roses that we planted back in November, and Olivia helped me plant the roses, and they are the Desdemona shrub roses. It's a David Austin rose. And when we received them in bare root form. They arrived looking quite unspectacular. They were just some little twigs with roots, and there were 12 in total. So we prepared the ground really well. We put the roses into soak, and because we wanted to avoid replant disease, we planted them in cardboard boxes, removing a lot of the old soil where the previous roses had been, the ballerina roses. And we backfilled the area with a combination of horse manure and garden compost. So reflecting now 5 months on how the roses are doing. Doing really, really well. So I'm just going around weeding this area. The tulips will be coming out soon, so I want the area to look really nice, ready for the tulips. I've got 4 of the roses, and as I showed you in the other video, I've got all these cuttings that I took. So as I go around weeding, I'm just infilling any big gaps because I want this area to be full of the Desdemona roses. So I'm just putting in the cuttings in the spaces that we've got. So I've got 12 roses. So that's really good. So that will be nice and full. In the centre, we've got the Princess Kate clematis, and I'm pleased to see that there's nice little shoots on that as well, so that's doing really well. So it's just really a case of weeding. There is a lot of grass and nettles, unfortunately, that always comes when you put horse manure and compost and stuff on the area, so but they come out quite easily. So I'm just going to get on and weed. I've done two of the quadrants, and I'll do the other 2 now. So following on from the work at the weekend, the Parterre is looking lovely. We've put the Desdemona roses in and weeded all the areas, and it's looking really nice. And we were just kind of reviewing how things are working. Obviously we weren't very happy with the roses that we had last year, so we've swapped those over. But the other thing that we kind of thought about perhaps isn't working was the obelisks. So we had 4 obelisks in each of these quadrants, and we just felt that perhaps they were just a bit domineering and a bit too big, and not really, we needed something a bit more delicate for the area. So we have actually got these just small obelisks. These are just kind of rusty metal obelisks, because I've just got a small clematis in each of the 4 areas. This is the, as I said before, the clematis Princess Kate. Just make out the little shoots coming there. So I'm really liking this. I think it looks much, much better. I'll just stand back and let you see what you think. So this is the area now. There's Murphy. And I think this is looking a lot better. Now the obelisks that we had in here, Alistair actually made those, and they're absolutely lovely. And when he made them, they were intended to go in the big long borders, and we put them there, and for some reason we decided we didn't like them there, and I can't remember the reason, because we've just put them back in the position where they were actually intended, because we have got 6, he made 6, and it took, it was quite a lot of effort making them. And then I can't really remember why we decided we didn't like them here, because I think they look absolutely stunning. So they're much more in scale, they look the right size for the borders. And I've had a fantastic idea, because I've got all these Olivia roses that I've been taking cuttings over the years, or over the last year or 2. And I'd already put some in the border. So I've got one here, and the obelisks haven't been fixed into place yet, so they're not measured. We need to measure them properly. But wouldn't it be lovely if we had the Olivia roses romping up the obelisk? They're not climbers, but they do get really big. You can let them get big, and I think having the support of the obelisks would look really nice. So I've got one in the top one and one in the bottom one already that I'd already put in. So all I need is to put another one of the little cuttings in the middle one. And if I just pan back to the seat, so this is where I think that looks really nice. and that will just give a bit of extra height. My only issue is I've got the Stipa gigantica, which I love. Got one here, I've got one in the middle and one at the end. So what would you do? Would I have, I think it works better to keep the Stipa slightly away from the arch in this case, but I guess the middle one would have to be behind the Stipa for it to look kind of symmetrical and look, you know, right on the eye. So I don't know, I'll have to play around with that. But I think here it looks quite good to have the Stipa's just there on the right, and then the rose is next to it. I think that looks nice. But I think the middle one would have to be at the same place as the Stipa, otherwise I think it might look a bit odd. I'm not sure, but we'll play around with that. But the grass has all been cut and it's looking really nice. So Livy's just helping me measure out these obelisks and trying to make sure they're in the, you know, evenly balanced. So we've got this one just in front of the behind, sorry, the Stipa, and then the little rose which Livy's just planted. This is one of the cuttings in the middle there. So we've put these three in. They're not necessarily straight, but they're evenly spaced out. So Alistair will use these stakes here, which he will sink into the ground, and then we'll attach those to the obelisks, and then they can't blow over. So we're also busy adding stakes. It's a good idea to put those in at this time of year before the plants grow up, and then they can grow up through them. So we've done some over here on some, I think that's penstemon over there, and on some delphiniums, which get very top heavy. So we're just going to carry on doing that. So this is the position of the final obelisk, and there's a lot of plants already in this place. So I'm just removing a big clump of lupins and a granny bonnet as well, and that'll be relocated elsewhere in the border. So just trying to give the rose a little bit of space, and so it's not in competition with other plants. So Murphy and I are back in the parterre again, and I think part of gardening, it's about evaluating what's working and what isn't working. And I think when we put the big white obelisks in the big long borders originally when they were first made, they looked quite domineering because all the planting there was quite immature. The beech hedging was only small, and the box hedging had only just been put in. So now that it's all matured, I think it's looking a lot better in that area. And I think in this area, in the parterre, I much prefer these obelisks. I think they're looking a lot nicer. It just looks a little bit more delicate, and just seems to go with the planting a bit more. So just to clarify, behind me, we've now got 7 roses in total in each of the quadrants, and that's made up of 4 of the bare root roses that Olivia and I planted back in November. So it's interesting to see how big they've got in that time. In this one behind me, I've also got the original pot-grown Desdemona rose that I bought when we went to visit David Austin Rose Garden back in, I think it was about August time. So that's the original plant I bought. That's the most expensive way of buying roses, but we bought that just to check that it definitely was the right rose for us. And I bought it back and really liked it. So I took cuttings at the time, so that was again back in September time, August time, and they all took really well and produced, I think I produced 12 new cuttings, which I've now infilled. There were lots of gaps in the area, particularly when we took the big white obelisks out. So I've infilled that with these little cuttings, and I think perhaps not this year, but over the next year or two, we'll start to get nice coverage of roses, and I'm hoping it will look spectacular. So fingers crossed, and we'll just reevaluate and just have a look and see if that's been successful. So in the shorter term, I'm really excited to see what the tulips are going to be like. These are the Angelique tulips, and they're very small. They're quite small in height. They're only, I don't know, about 15 centimetres in height. But that might work quite well, because in the past I've had high tulips and they've just got blown over in the wind. So these look good, and if they do perform well, then I'll just plant more of them next year, so they'll be here en masse. So thank you very much for watching, and join us again in the next video. Bye for now.